You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
So I saw this headline today as I was scrolling through the internet. This says James Cameron regrets fetishizing guns in the Terminator. Is that the same as James Cameron saying he regrets having made Terminator? Because how do you make that movie without guns? Also, how do you make that movie without, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger being a terrible actor? Like, was the casting for that, let's get someone who has no emotional depth that could be a robot? If so, can I audition for the next one? This is in stores this week. What's up, the internet? It's producer Kyle, Jay, Sean, Dan. Sean and I are doing our jobs in repping the Experience merch store, the EXP Live, THEEXPLive.com. Click on merch in the top right-hand corner, and you can buy merch. Dan and Jay didn't know it was their job to rep the merch store. I just made that up, but, you know.
We never rep the channel.
You haven't sent me a free hat yet.
Dan, because they don't make hats big enough for our heads. Like, the reason this hat isn't turned around is because I had to cut a little slit in the back. So I didn't get hat lines.
Yeah, even mine's a bit almost too small for me. So,
well, they sent me a medium small in the black EXP hat. So I put it on to take that picture. And I immediately took it off because it felt like my skull was beginning to crack.
And I have a large, extra large on, and it's still, it's almost a little too tight.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just send me one of the patches, and I'll make myself a hat and sew the patch onto it.
To answer your question, Kyle, walkie-talkies like they did in ET.
Okay, that's a good one.
By the way, you have emotional range.
Yeah.
You have anger and hunger.
Right. I have emotional rage. It's like in Spinal Tap. It just sometimes it's turned up to 11 and other times it's like 9.5.
It's like a fuel gauge. It just goes from hungry, angry.
Hunger is not an emotion. Hunger is a state of being.
That's why you started hunger. Anger is the only overriding of hunger.
I beg to differ about hunger not being an emotion because
there's an emotion called hangry.
Oh, I'm always hungry. Sometimes I am both hungry and angry.
So you're hangry.
Right. Sometimes I am both hungry and less angry.
He's kind of proving my point, isn't he?
A little bit.
No, hunger is the state in which I exist.
Pretty much what I said.
Right, never not hungry.
Huh.
No.
Wow.
So I don't consider it an emotion. I consider it a pre-existing condition.
It's kind of like there's a gas tank and there's a gas tank with gas in it. It's only a street of beans. The gas tank is always there.
Sure.
There's gas
hunger is the gas tank.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
what
I guess I can go with that. I guess I can
That's
go.
what I was saying. Yes.
Anyway, so this week's books, I want to start off by talking about the week between Christmas and New Year's in comic books. Do not ever expect this week to be groundbreaking comic book times, because most stores, it's one of the weirdest weeks of the year. You have a bunch of people coming in because they have Christmas money and they're looking to spend their Christmas money. But they're not looking for new books. They're looking for hot toys. You know, they're looking for stuff. They're not looking to pick up their pull list. They're looking to pick up stuff that they wouldn't have bought themselves if they had to spend their own money. So for a long time, this was the week of the annual or the one shot where they would kind of just tell a story that didn't really fit anywhere else in the publication schedule. And they would just be like, here, let's burn it this week. And then for a while, for a lot of publishers, it was just a straight up skip week. They didn't put books out this week, or they would use it to get back on schedule if there was a delay. So you would see something that Gary Frank drew. That's a joke about how he's never on time.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So
Why you got to call out Gary Frank, man?
Because he's never on time.
But he's a nice guy. You don't need to put him on. You don't need to put him on blast like that.
I'm still angry about Doomsday Clock.
Dude, you're angry about everything.
Yes.
Oh, good stuff.
As we discussed earlier, I'm angry about how Ryan Johnson spells his name.
Okay.
Only because try and type Ryan Johnson into a computer with autocorrect. You have to type it 3-4 times before it realizes you know what you're spelling. Anyway, just know that this is generally a week where you get lighter stories, lesser stories, side stories, one shots, and that kind of stuff. So the fact that we do have a number one from a pretty major series is kind of a big deal for this week. Just know that traditionally it's been a lighter week or weaker stories. So just know that going in, Marvel and DC have sort of been stemming that tide in recent years by dropping number ones in the week between Christmas and New Year's. But for most publishers, it's still kind of a get caught back up week. So let's start, though, with something that has been incredibly strong and, in my opinion, was a little bit off this week, but not that far. Bloodshot Unleashed number 4.
Yeah, this book. This book is still my jam. For me, it really does get better with every issue. I am getting the feeling, though, that even though the first issue kind of started like we were going on this arc, some of these other issues kind of feel more like journal entries. This one especially, it really blurs the line between what's real and what's the memory. And I love the fact that they mentioned the Vine in this, because the Vine is, for those watching that don't know, the Vine is an alien race that's very intertwined in the Valiant universe. They're pretty much the reason for Arc of Dacia, Exo Manowar. And they're just intertwined with a lot of characters. Once again, the writing in this book is solid. The gore, the action is amazing. And of course, I have to say that the JDF tribute in the back, because he was technically the first person to portray the live action Bloodshot in Ninjak versus the Valiant universe. It was wonderful. Like, I read it and teared up, because the dude was a big part of a lot of our childhoods. So I tip my hat to Valiant for that. But solid book, probably my pick of the week, and there's only one that's like right under it.
Yeah, I think Jay and I have the same 2 books this week that are high on our list. I thought this was interesting because they show that the spent shells have been around a lot longer than we thought. So even the flashbacks are basically going back to one of the spent shells, or one of the basically the super soldiers they created. And in a way, the setup for the characters were interesting, because it felt like the guy he was going after, or was going after him in the past, was kind of an amalgam of Wolverine, or an analog for Wolverine, and the guy in the future was an analog for Rambo. And I just thought that was kind of interesting, that it kind of felt like the current day was kind of a First Blood take. And and also we got some other things with him that was still kind of a first, but from everything I've seen, this is pretty much the only book Valiant is putting out right now. The Shadow War has completely, we haven't seen Shadow War in a long time. The new Exo Man of War series got delayed, so it's nice to see that at least this one's still coming out strong. And again, I'm a big fan of the Valiant stuff, so I really do like this book.
I think it said sometime in late January, Book of Shadows is coming back.
Okay.
Yeah, so for me, where I thought issue 3 kind of was the one that stepped away, this one came back with a vengeance. I loved it, and I agree where the past and the present really did seem to blur. The flashbacks and the transitions were so seamless in this particular book. And then of course they kept the gore turned up to 11, which I absolutely loved. And like Jay, the JDF thing for me hit home. I was a huge Power Rangers fan as a kid and a big fan of JDF. I mean, I had albums, I had some of the videos that he used to do where he'd teach you some stuff. And so he for me was a very big fixture as a kid, probably for a good 3, 4, 5 years. And whatnot. So I thought that was a really great touch. I definitely got emotional with the tribute in the back and everything. So yeah, just all around, this is great. I wonder if Valiant might be benefiting a little bit since this is the only series that they've got going on and it just continues to be this strong, or just the fact that they only do, what is it, like Dan said, it's 2 or 3 series at a time, so they can really concentrate on having the writing be what it is versus some of these other companies that are spreading things a little too thin.
Yeah, Valiant does what they, kind of their thing. They only put out product that's finished and product that's right. They'll hold on to something until it's right. Definitely benefits them. The problem I had with this issue compared to the previous 3 is that and it may have been just the mindset I was in when I was reading it, I struggled with the switch between memory and current. It was hard for me to tell what is a memory here and what is actually currently happening. And then to go back and differentiate those things and still follow the story. It felt a little muddy to me, which, okay, like that's a fine problem to have when you're telling the story you're telling, right? It was still a great book. It just, to me, felt a little less clean, a little bit harder to read than the previous 3, but no less good.
If you haven't read this yet, you pick it up. Just keep in mind that the flashbacks start whenever he takes a major wound. So if he gets hit hard, that's when we go back to the past. So, and you guys brought up JDF. I wasn't a Power Rangers fan, but I got to meet him while they were filming Valiant, Ninjak versus Valiant Universe. So that's, you kind of hit me as well, having been actually on set and being able to interview him and then Michael Rowe on the same day. And that was, yeah. So when I got to that tribute, I was like, oh man, because I remember being there. And so I feel it with you guys, man.
All right. Up next, Grim Fairy Tales number 67. Can I make a statement? When I look at the front page, the cover of a Zenescope book, I immediately look at that top and see how many pages of content it is before I decide whether or not I'm going to invest effort. If that number is above 32 pages, I'm just skimming. So to see 22 pages of content made me ridiculously happy.
Which is a good thing, because this was terrible. God, I don't think I've seen art this bad in a Zenescope book ever. And it made it so hard and the story didn't help it. The story was a little boring for me, but the art was just so bad. This is probably the worst effort I think I've seen from Zenescope personally. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
What he said.
Well, it was a Grimm fairy tale book. Art was meh. You would think though, with only 22 pages, the story would be just a little bit tighter. But again, you have so many characters, and everyone has to have a line. The part where Sky is with Baba Yaga, I actually like that. I wish the whole issue would have just been that. Her fighting Baba Yaga to try to get back to Arcane Acre. I wish it just would have been that, because it was almost pointless as having the Musketeers in this, because they felt so wasted outside of fake Sky flirting with Diego. And what I like to call what's the best way to let on you're not who you appear to be? An out of character, you've never flirted with a human being in your life trope. It was so out of character. The fact that nobody there was like, oh, you're obviously not Sky, was just like, come on, folks. Come on. Like it, but again, like I said, there was so many characters in this, like usual. You had 22 pages. Why didn't you just do her with Baba Yaga? I think I probably still wouldn't have liked it, honestly, if I'm being honest, but I might have liked it a little more than I like this.
Dan, do you have anything to add?
I feel bad about trashing GFT because I'm connected to the company in a way. So, but yeah, this was not a good effort. And ever since they brought on this new direction where they're diving deep into the Lovecraftian lore and stuff, it just hasn't been working.
Yeah, Mom always said if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. So James Bond 007 number 5, which is a book I can say a lot of nice things about.
Yep, this was the other book that would be in my top. This and Bloodshot are the two top for me.
Yeah, I think universally this was considered by our group the best book of the week.
Yeah,
unless Sean is going to get taken off the
air. They're doing a great job with this series. Philip Kennedy Johnson has a great feel for Bond. But again, he's writing. This series is not supposed to be Sean Connery's Bond or Pierce Brosnan's Bond or Daniel Craig's Bond or any of the other. This is supposed to be Ian Fleming's Bond, going back to the actual novels. And it has that feel. If you haven't read or listened to any of the original James Bond novels, this is what it's like. And if you like this, check them out. They did a really good adaptation of Casino Royale as a graphic novel not that long ago too. But this is a really good, unique story. It delves into the history of Bond, Moneypenny, M003, but it does it in a very unique way, and I like this a lot. I'm really enjoying this series, and I thought we were done at 4, so I thought this was the last one at 5, so I'm happy to see more.
Yeah, there's at least 6. This one to me reminded me a little bit of a Ocean's 11 or I had another example in my head when I was reading it, but one of those things where you see it all play out and you're like, this doesn't make it. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. It's something where you see it all play out and you're like, this doesn't make any sense. We're missing there's a big piece of information we don't have. And then boom, they tell you that piece of information and everything makes sense. And it's this beautiful execution of this story. And I really, really enjoyed this issue. And I'm anxious to see in issue 6 how they wrap it up. There's still some loose ends that need to be tied up, as there always are in James Bond stories. So to figure that out and see how they wrap this up will be interesting to me.
Well, what I'm going to say about this book is even if you're not like a fan of the movies, even if you've never read a book, get this. This is such an exciting story, and there hasn't been an issue yet that I've been bored with. Um, it's just the writing's so good, and there's parts of the book that it just leaves you guessing right up to the reveal. And I forget how many issues this is going to be, but I hope it goes on for a while because I really think this book right here is one of the best books Dynamite is putting out. This comic, it's delivered in every issue, and I can't wait for the next one. Even if you're not a fan of James Bond, if you're just a comic book fan, you like spy and espionage, get this book. It is totally worth it. Totally worth it.
Yeah. So I think this was the first 007 I've actually ever read. So I didn't see the first 4 issues of this series. That said, it didn't take away from me enjoying this. It was so well done in every aspect. And like has already been said, the reveal at the end made the whole issue make sense. Anything that I had questions about up to that point until that reveal was wiped away, and I was totally fine with that. But now I do want to go back and read issues 1 through 4 because I want to know what I missed, so that I know what I'm getting. Have a better idea of what I'm getting into for issue 6. But yeah, I mean, you don't have to be a fan of the movies to like this book. You will definitely enjoy this if you're a big spy espionage, twisty turny kind of loving person.
Talking Shirt Red Sonja.
Now the experience Talking Shirt.
I will go first. The shirt didn't talk enough, and Merlin talked too much, but that's okay because I liked this issue.
Yeah, I'm with you on this. This has been a really good series. Dan Abnett has been making this a fun series, tying Red Sonja into Arthurian legend with a twist. And I thought the artwork wasn't as good. I feel like it's kind of taken a dip, and at some points, Sonja looked almost like a little girl.
Yeah.
But I think the story is still moving along really well. And I'm ready to get to the conclusion, but I want to see the conclusion.
Yeah.
So for me, I want to say that this was one of the number ones I got with that Dynamite 10-pack. So I'm literally going from issue 1 to issue 9, and I have nothing from in between.
Yeah.
That said, this was probably the most fun book this week for me as far as reads, because of the fact that I got kind of the Knights of the Round Table legend with Arthur and Merlin and the sword and everything mixed in with Red Sonja. I totally agree on the art. It did seem a little wonky here and there, and then there were points where it was really, really good. So I'm not sure if it was one of those they were just in a hurry to get some of the pages done. But outside of that, I thought the story was well paced. I was never really that bored. Unfortunately, I guess since I hadn't read anything else, I don't know. I like the idea that Merlin talked as much as he did and that he did what he did. I thought they made that look really awesome. So, yeah, definitely. At least this week for me, Dynamite hit on both books.
Yeah, I must have missed an issue or two. But nonetheless, this was chaotic, but in a good way. There's a battle that lasts most of the book. And to me, it was kind of like a sword measuring contest between the team there.
Jay with the quadruple entendre.
Now, ultimately though, Merlin wins that one. He wins that one with
Well,
what
lightning swords are always better than metal swords.
well that and dragons. Okay, dragons.
Jargons.
Yeah. There. There's also not just the Arthurian legend we're getting here. I am strongly getting, especially with that final panel, I am strongly getting some Lord of the Rings vibes with this too. The baddie looking at Caliburn, which I'm pretty sure is a vape device. What a weird name for that, but I like this one. I started out with this Immortal Red Sonja. I was kind of okay. I like this one better than the other Red Sonjas. This so far, outside of Samurai Sonja, which shouldn't have been called Red Sonja, I know. This one's been one of my favorite ones we've done with Red Sonja. So I liked it.
All right. Frankenstein New World Order number 4. New World number 4.
What the hell happened to this book?
Frog people.
I was really enjoying this series, and I felt completely lost. I've read all 4 issues, and I felt completely lost in this issue. It was like, did I take something? I mean, it almost felt like we went from, this interesting story to this psychedelic trip, and I'm not sure what's going on. And I don't even know, did it end? Was this the final issue? I have no idea. I got really confused by this.
Maybe you should have taken something.
Well, I will say that the questions Dan is asking are the same questions I'm asking, except my question is, can it end? Can we just be done? And luckily, this is it.
This is it.
Wow.
This is it.
So they're going to leave you.
That's all that's solicited.
Oh, okay.
There may be more, but like solicitation for an issue 5 does not exist in my system.
Because
not as strong as the other issues. And you already know if Dan was confused, I was way out of my depth on this. But I have a theory, and I don't think it's going to be a spoiler because I'm more than likely wrong. I think somehow we got some wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey looper stuff going on. And Lilja, I think that's how you say her name, is actually the woman encased in the ember somehow. I'm probably completely wrong about that, but that's the theory I'd like to have because she feels like she's more important than it's being led on. But outside of that, I mean, the frog people have worn out their welcome with me.
Yeah, you know who else wore out their welcome with me? Merc. What the heck is the point of teasing that thing for like 2 issues? And then what is the point of Merc? That is literally my entire question of this whole issue. I was tired of the frog people from the last issue. Personally, I was just like, I need more of this Frankenstein character because it's extremely interesting. We didn't get the awesome one-liner that we got in issue 3, but overall, this was a little dull. I love the colors. I can see where Dan might be wondering if he was on something based on the colors that they used in some of the panels. But I literally was just sitting there. They keep teasing this Merc thing. They're going back and forth and back, especially in the last few pages. They were really going back and forth. And then if this is it and that's how you're going to leave it, what a bad way to end what potentially was a really good series. So that said, I think that they should expand upon this Frankenstein in other ways because it is a really cool, unique take on this character.
Yeah.
So there's an interesting development that I went and just checked on while you guys were talking. And in the first book, under the listing of creators and the way things are listed, Christopher Golden, Tom Snagowski, Mike Mignola, in that order. For the second issue, Mike Mignola, Christopher Golden, Tom Snagowski. For the third issue, Mike Mignola, Christopher Golden, Tom Snagowski. For the fourth issue, same way. So here's my question. That first issue that was so strong, do you think maybe it was because Christopher Golden and Tom Snagowski did the lifting, and then Mike Mignola has come in and muddied the water?
Could be.
No.
And what I mean by that is is it one of those things that, and the reason I asked that question is this: it felt like it was a story when it started that had a strong, centralized voice. It knew the story it was going to tell and how it was going to tell it. And every progressive issue since then has gotten more and more. What?
No.
I wonder if and here's what I mean: is there too many cooks in the kitchen?
There could be too many cooks in the kitchen, but the way this universe has been working is Mignola and Golden have been working together for years.
Right.
And then they occasionally bring in somebody to script it. So if anything, it might be maybe they're not having as strong of a hand and they let Snagowski do a little bit more.
Right. And that's where I was going. Is it's in the first issue, Mignola drew it.
No, he didn't.
Or he's listed as the primary artist in the first issue.
Oh, see, I thought Peter Bergting did the art in all of this.
He is also listed as the artist, but in that first issue, it's like maybe Mignola went through and did some pencils to kind of show him. It's like it feels like that this was a book that should have just been Mike Mignola and Christopher Golden, and then they brought in other people. And Peter Bergting has done great work, phenomenal work, and Michelle Madsen, who's doing the colors, has done phenomenal work. But that it just got too many cooks in the kitchen, and by the end, all of those differing styles and ideas have convoluted the story in such a way that it just doesn't make sense anymore.
It's possible. I would think it's a little bit different in that I would think, from what I understand of how this is working, like I said, is Mignola and Golden are kind of showrunnering this whole universe at this point, and then Snagowski's the one coming in and doing the scripting, and that perhaps they kind of stepped back a little as the series progressed. They were a little closer on, and then they went, I've got to do Hellboy in Love, and we've got the little Hellboy tales with Lobster Johnson, and we've got the Counting Crows band going on over here, or whatever it is, Castle of Crows, so that maybe they weren't as guiding in the later issue as they should have been.
Yeah, like I said, it just feels like written from too many different voices. So, all right. I want to like this book.
Same.
I want to like this book. And Tim Seeley is coming to my local hometown convention. I want to like this book.
I like Tim. He's a nice guy, but what I like about this book is that it's over.
Right. Yeah. Again, this is one of those, everything here is in my wheelhouse except for none of it works. And I just don't know. Should I quote Taylor Swift? Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. Or is it just that there's a lot of work being done in this realm right now, and some of it is just not good. And this book had all the makings. It really did. And it just didn't come together for me. And that's really unfortunate. And I'm really bummed out by it. If you like it, great. Good for you. But to me, it just every week was a swing and a miss.
I'm with you on that, except for I would quote Rob Thomas. It's me, and I can't get myself to go away. Yeah, it's.
I'm gonna have that tattooed on my body somewhere, Dan.
I think there was a lot of potential in this book, but it just never lived up to it. I think that maybe this was a matter of Tim seeing the idea, but not being able to convey it across as well as he might something else. Because I just don't feel that we never really got to the point where we cared about the daughter. And I think that's where we lose it, is that they never really had that bond, and we feel, it just, we're supposed to like Joe, and then we're supposed to like her, and it just never really clicks. So,
yeah, I'm in the same boat because I really liked the first issue, and I needed more. And what I mean by I needed more was there are books out there that shouldn't be 10 issues. You could have wrapped it up in 2 or 3, and a lot of them feel like filler. And then there's books like this where there was so many story choices that they made that I was like, hey, you guys could have expanded on Joe a bit more. Like, cool, he's a seventh son of the seventh son. We've heard that from Seeker and Legend of the Seeker. But
Iron Maiden.
Yeah, like, but why didn't we delve deeper into that? And then you get to this one, right? And this one is like, yeah. I mean, we get to this one and it's like, okay, something's happened. It's over. Something was actually starting to happen, and it's already over. And I won't say that this book was like terrible, but it's a book that I think it suffered from only having 4 issues.
So, I'm not saying the book was terrible, but but if I never have to read it again, I'm good with that. I literally just got the bookends of this series. I got to read issue 1 and then issue 4. I didn't get 2 and 3. Would I be wrong in saying, though, that it feels like since issue 1, the story got more chaotic and convoluted and not in a good way? And then you have this issue. Is that an accurate assumption?
Yeah.
That's basically how it felt. I didn't really care about anybody in this issue. I didn't care about Joe, his daughter, nothing. It just, how are you supposed to have a good story if you don't care? It's just my feeling. You've got to be able to connect with something. And while visually it wasn't that bad, that might have been the best part of the book. It's the only compliment I can give it. It's one of those like Scotty Young's book, The Me You Love in the Dark. It was great, and then it had a weird ending, and that's just how this felt to me. Like they were in a hurry to get to the end, and here it is, and now we're done.
I do like the fact we're talking about a book called The Roadie, and there was 3 musical references in our reviews.
It's fair.
It's fair. It is very
and
fair.
all very different types of music.
All right. Door to night, door by door.
Door night to by door night.
Right. Yes. Door to door, night by night.
If I have to read this again, I'm going to fight.
I didn't hate it. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. I felt like about this book vaguely similarly to the way I felt about the first book. It has the pieces to be something kind of interesting, but it's another book with goblins. How many goblin books do we have right now? More than you would think.
Not enough.
I don't know.
Goblins are zombies.
Okay? There's enough goblins. We don't need more goblins. Can we have something else, please? Like I said, I feel like this book has all the pieces. It just doesn't put them together in the order I would choose to put them together in. And so I like it, but I don't love it, but I don't hate it. It's just kind of it's a comic.
Well, being Jay, most of the time positive about most of these books. I did think it was better than the first issue, but that's only because going into this one, you know what it's going to be because of the end of issue 1. It's definitely an interesting concept. I mean, door-to-door fundraisers with mysterious past become monster hunters after picking up Max in the first issue, and Max isn't even in this one, and that kind of makes me wonder: was she a throwaway character? Is she eventually going to come back, or is it like? Because it's kind of a lot to drop on folks. Hey, monsters are real. Okay, I'm going to dip out. I'm interested to see where this goes. It's not the greatest book, but then again, I've said this about a lot of Cullen Bunn things. There's sometimes I think he writes so much stuff that some stories suffer.
So, for me, for better or worse, I'm kind of invested in this one simply because of the end of the first issue. This basically just feels like a whole lot of setup, and issue 3 better have some kind of payoff, or I probably will just throw the book in the trash and I'll be done with it. And that's basically how I feel. I think Max will come back in issue 3. I don't see them having that many calls to her like they did in this book and something not happening. But we'll see. I mean, Cullen, I agree, has been writing so much that it seems to be suffering a little bit. But he has done enough good work that I'll give him my trust that something's going to happen in the next issue. And then if it doesn't, then I'll wash my hands of this series. Basically, is where I'm at with it.
I'd like to take the 5th because I'm going to need a 5th of something to be able to read any more of this series. I'm not liking this. I didn't like the first one, and nothing's grown on me. So just go ahead and move on to Book of Slaughter.
All right. Well, talking about series that we're going to walk away from, I think I'm done with the Slaughter children books of House of.
Yeah, all the 5 stories are terrible. I've said it. Yeah.
One of the books I was looking forward to reading this week was a Tinian book. This wasn't it. Okay, now we're gonna find out who we're finally gonna get the backstory of everything that was Something is Killing the Children. We're finally gonna get the backstory of House of Slaughter. We're finally gonna kind of figure all this stuff out. But then you realize that the thing that made this book work wasn't the details. Right? It's like you go see a movie and it's not a movie that's particularly complex. And then you talk to your friend who wants to break down the minutia of the not already complex movie. Like before this, Dan was talking about Glass Onion, and those movies are complex. So you need to go through and figure out the kind of the ins and outs and the inner workings of the thing. It would be like having that conversation about Running Man or Beverly Hills Cop.
Hey, that's intricate.
A movie that's not needlessly complex. You could follow that movie without really paying that close of attention.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
When Harold Faltermeyer does a tempo shift in the Axel F theme, it shows you the depth that Axel is actually going through from his move from Detroit to Beverly Hills.
Correct.
Now I want Dan to break down all 3 of those movies.
Look, if I don't hear Dan do Ajuel, then I'm out. But here's the thing. I don't care about any of this. Pay off the first 15 issues of the first series, and then we'll talk. But I'm done, Tinian. I'm done.
Well, I'll be quick about this. I'm going to be real honest with you. The most interesting part of this book to me was the actual book they look at. Like, it gives you, info about this universe, about the different types of masks and the totems and why some of the masks have teeth. Most interesting part of the book to me. I could not, if I tried, care less about the rest of it. I just, I jumped in on the new arc that started at whatever it started at, of the regular something is killing the children, and even that is kind of like, okay, it takes a while to get to the monsters in this. Like, this is a monster hunting book, and it's got this other interesting human character. I guess they're human with Cutter, but it just feels like we're just sitting around. And this one is about a murder that happened apparently in House of Slaughter. We read like 2 House of Slaughters. I was bored with those, and I never read them on my own. So, I mean, to quote Dan, I really didn't care about the story. I didn't really care about this.
The side stories just need to stop. I'm just going to go ahead and say that now. It feels like the moment the side stories came out with the House of Slaughter and this, the main story suffered. I don't know why, but that literally has been how it's felt. I could care less about this. I think some of the lore of the series up to this point has been the mystery behind the Order of St. George. The mask colors really, to me, didn't mean much of anything because you never see them technically used in the context that they're described in this book. You really don't. So to me, it was needless information that, as a fan of the series, I didn't actually need. You have a character in here that's supposedly going to take Erica's place. Cool. What was the point of showing it, though? Like, are you bringing this character into the main story in some way, or is this literally, what kind of payoff is that actually to me? I just have nothing great that I can say about this, unfortunately.
To quote Bill Murray, it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Look, basically, Tinian's making a source book or a codex for his series. He's just putting a short story around it to make it still a comic book. It's like this week, Boom has given us a bunch of prose pages in the middle of comic books. They do it here and in the next book. And either just make a codex or make a source book or make a story. But I don't want to read 4 or 5 pages in and then suddenly I'm reading prose and I'm learning that you've got green masks. Have we seen green masks? These things that kill dragons? Have we seen a dragon? Because I'd love to see a dragon much more than I want to see pages and pages of text. So, yeah, I think just skimming through those pages and what we didn't get, like the silver mask guys or the green mask guys, that's a hell of a lot more interesting to me than what's going on in the story.
Yep.
So, hey, let's have a book about a silver mask or a green mask. I'd read that. This I'm kind of bored with. So,
all right. And then a book that we literally put the wrong title on on the side there.
Hall.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't be bothered to care.
Yeah. Thank God I'm not the only one. Okay.
I'm the odd man out in this one.
Okay, so I'm gonna go first. We'll just let Jay get his it's not bad in later. What in the world was this book about? That is my question. I've not read the first 2 issues. I had no clue what was going on in this book. I thought it was an acid trip. That's literally what it felt like for the first half of it. So I based on that, there's nothing I can give because I was so utterly confused and had no idea what the actual story was supposed to be in this that I can't tell you if it's good or if it's bad or if you just want to take the fact that I had no idea what was going on as a bad sign. Visually, it wasn't that bad. Art wise, a bit chaotic, but it wasn't bad. That's the only plus that I can really give you. So if somebody here who understands this book can tell me what was going on, please do enlighten me.
This is Simon Spurrier having an idea for Constantine that didn't get picked up by DC and taking it over to Boom, changing the gender of the main character and putting it out, but realizing his middle issue is just exposition. And for some reason, they went grayscale on the modern day stuff. I'm not sure why they chose to do that, which seemed really weird. But yeah, this had an interesting first issue and it's been downhill ever since.
Right. It's if you have a Constantine pitch, make your Constantine pitch.
Yeah.
But what Cy Spurrier didn't have was a full story. He had a pitch, and they made a great 1 issue out of a pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's let's throw so much text at the reader that they're so bombarded they won't notice that we're not telling a story anymore. We're just kind of existing. And
right. Reading the phone book.
Right. In the end, if I wanted that, I would read
Book of Slaughter.
Yeah, or I was gonna say I would read the dictionary. Like I don't need Cockney wall text in my comic books. And this is one of those books that I should love. And I just don't.
Okay, Jay, tell us it's not that bad.
Look, it's not that bad.
It's not that bad. Merch available on the EXP merch store after New Year's.
Yes. It's not the greatest story either, but there's something about weaponized demons that intrigues me. And I don't know, it's almost like a bad girlfriend at this point. I don't understand why, but I want more of it. Like, I want more of it because I want there to be that issue that just is like, hey, you remember like the 100,000 words you just read in these 2 issues, these 3 issues? Here's the payoff for doing that. We're going to get an issue that's action, less words, art speaks for itself. It's a Constantine theme. Like we've all got that. I mean, Sean probably thought there's some kind of, maybe he didn't know it was Constantine feel to it, but definitely he knew there was some kind of sorcerer kind of aspect to it. I want this to be like the roadie. I want this to be good. Like, I guess I'm just too optimistic about it, but I really just want this to be good.
Okay, forget about the comics. Now, at this point, we got 3 minutes left. Jay, tell us about this girl that hurt you. this bad girlfriend that you still want more of, Jay. Let's hear about that. We won't tell Jenna.
Yeah, right. Okay. No, it's just, you know, those people that, like, you know it's bad. You know you already it just doesn't, I don't want to say service you because that sounds really wrong.
No, please continue.
Jay, I'm with you on Damn Them All and Door to Door, Night by Night. Like, I want to keep reading them because I want them to pay off and turn into something, but they don't. But if they don't, I'm going to be really angry at myself for continuing to read them. But I want them to, so I'm willing to give them a shot. So, all right, Dan, what are we talking about tomorrow on the Dan Wickline program?
I don't know yet, but it's probably going to be the best and worst of 2022 since it'll be my last show of the year.
Is one of the things that will be the worst of 2022 Books of Slaughter?
It wasn't going to be, but it might be now.
You just made the list.
Right. Okay. So tune in tomorrow for the Dan Wickline show. I'm filling in on Thursday, which will be super interesting because JD is producing the show from my office on Thursday. So I'm not sure how that's going to work. We'll have to figure that one out. Anyway, I'm filling in on Thursday. Jay will be back with the Space Cadets on Thursday.
You're
Sean,
in JD's lap, aren't you?
no. Only because JD is smaller than me and I don't want to kill him. Sean, what are you up to? What do you got going in the next week or so?
So tomorrow, provided that I get everything done tonight, is going to be my best of list for comics for the year.
Nice.
So hopefully, I'm sure there will be some choices on there that might make you scratch your head.
Yeah, I'll probably yell at you.
A lot of
That's
Kickstarter stuff, though.
There's Kickstarter stuff. There are some one major publisher. I'll give you one spoiler. I finally read Civil War this year, and it's on the list, and I loved it.
Cool.
So,
Marvel or Ken Burns?
the Marvel.
He couldn't have read Ken Burns in a single year, Dan. It's too long.
That's right. No, that's why I was asking.
All right. So, guys, as always, this show is brought to you by Comic Shop Locator. Head over to comicshoplocator.com. Type in the area code where you are to find local comic shops nearby to you. If you're traveling for New Year's, use it. Stop in, spend your Christmas money at a shop you might not otherwise visit. For Dan and Jay and Sean, I've been Kyle. This has been In Stores This Week. Stay tuned for Minute to Skim It, where they will likely be nicer to the comics than we were. Only because, well, they're just nicer people than we are. See you guys next time.